Hello and welcome back to our sustainable journey. I'm Steve. Today we're going to sift. Okay, so sifting, basically what you want to do is you want to separate your castings, the good stuff, your worms, and then the unfinished product from your worm bins. So I have the one that we made. We will pop it open, and you can see there's stuff in here that clearly isn't finished, right? You know, you got some wood chips, you got this compostable bag, you got whatever this is, and then there's worms under it, of course. You know, like this is a piece of, I think this is a piece of tape from a box. That's all that's left. And then there's these stupid little stones that got mixed in there, and we want to separate all that stuff out from the actual finished castings that we're going to use in your garden, right? So there are a ton of different ways to do this. The easiest one for you to do at home is using what's called the light method. So basically you put your worm bin under a light and you wait, and then you scrape off the top layer, you set it aside, and then you do it again. So you scrape down until you see worms, and then you do it again and again and again, and you kind of hand separate out the worms from the castings. You see them all over the lid too, so I need to pull them all off the lids. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them onto, I have a cutting board that I use for this, so I can see them a little bit easier. It's white, so the worms are clear. So that's what we're gonna do, is we're going to grab a scoop of castings and we'll kind of go through them. And this is one way, there we go, one way to separate your castings using just the light method. So I'm gonna set this here. This is just empty. This is where I'm gonna put the unfinished castings and the worms. No, actually, you know what? I want to put the finished castings in this one. I will put the unfinished castings into another worm bin. So let me go grab one of those. So I did some sifting this past week. Ugh. And so I have a bunch of bins that are relatively empty. There's probably still some worms in there, but we can use the stuff that we separate out from here, put it in here, and start the process all over again. So you can see there's actually, there's baby worms. I'm sure there's stuff in the corners, because when we scoop, we don't get everything. So let me get the worms off the lid so that they don't dry out while we're doing this. All right, so we've cleared off our work area, gotten most of the worms off the bins, or off the lids. And I'm going to take a scoop here. All right, so easy to spot all the big stuff, like these rocks. Fruit stickers, it's all trash. What you're looking for is the stuff that you don't necessarily want in your garden, right? And you want to make sure that you don't get any worms in there. I mean, not that worms are bad for your garden, but you also want to be able to put them back in your worm bin. And so you're just going to go through and sift it out by hand. So this is just sifting it out by hand. Like this is the way we probably all started sifting our worm bins. I'm going to pull out the worms. Doesn't have to be perfect. So you can see stuff like pumpkin seed. Rocks. Let's see. You can see there's no, oh, there's still worms in here. Okay. That's literally it. That is the entire way. Just make sure there's no worms. And these are essentially, I mean, looking at this is finished castings. Like, this would be just fine in your garden. Plenty of microbes. It's all fresh. You can leave it like this. You don't need to do anything else special with this. This is good to go. So that is the first and simplest method. Now we can get fancy and start using sifting tools. Some people like to sift their castings into a much finer level. I'm trying to separate these buckets while I'm talking to you guys. Let's see if I can do it. Nope. So we use designed to go in a 5-gallon bucket, and they're perfect for our purposes. So you start with obviously the biggest filter size. And you see it goes right into your 5-gallon bucket, right? Then you can take your castings, pull the hunks from last time, and we can just scoop them on into this. And I can't do that with one hand. Give me a second. Let me put this in there. And then I'm just going to sift. Wouldn't you know it? You find a cocoon right as you're going. Hopefully you can see that. Oh, it's got a baby coming out. Oh my gosh, we saw a birth of a baby. Very cool. All right, I'm gonna put that in the other bin. What are the odds? Cool. Okay. So, I'm just gonna do a little bit. And scoopy, scoopy. Here. I'm really just doing this for video purposes. So you can visually see what's going on. All right. Okay. And then you kind of set them around. Take all this stuff. We'll go through it and make sure that there's nothing weird that doesn't belong. This is usually the one where we find the avocado pits that take forever. And then you can see we've got some sifted castings. Now, that's not the final sift. We're going to go down another level. So I'm going to get the other bucket, or one of the other buckets. So you get the next filter, put it on. Same thing. Sift it through. Pull out anything that doesn't belong. Toss this into our worm bin. All right, so now we have finer sifted. And some people go down a whole nother level. I think this is 1/8 inch. Okay. And of course there's a whole bunch on the bottom, but that's okay. We're gonna sift it again. You know, this is really hard to do on camera. All right. There we go. And then you have very, very finely sifted castings. We don't go down that far. For ours, we go down just to the second one. Because we're spreading these over fields usually. And when you're covering, you know, 100 acres, who really cares how finely sifted they are? They don't need to be perfect. So this is your finished castings. Easy as that, right? So that is one way to do it by hand. I don't do it that way anymore. I used to, but I really enjoy these sifting pans. I do. So what I did, we got one of those, the worm shifter. How many years ago did I get that? It feels like 10 years ago. It's been a really long time. So I took it and I modified it, because here at Our Sustainable Journey, we believe in child labor. And so I have children, my children, that actually really enjoy sifting castings. And so I modified it so that instead of putting huge swaths of stuff on the worm sifter, I can set them up with 3 buckets. I could probably do a 4th one because there's plenty of room on here. I just made it simple. And so we put the buckets on the worm sifter, and then they can do it 1 scoop at a time. And for a 12-year-old, that's pretty good. And so then they can sift out the castings, and they know to put them in these bins. So we have finished and unfinished. So these are, you can see all the worms in there. These are the unfinished that we have. And these are the finished. Oh my gosh, we need to get those worms out of there. So you can see, yeah, we don't separate them out too far down. But these are, see all the avocados? So many avocados. That's how we do it. We just put it on the worm sifter. And sometimes we don't even do that. Depending on how finished the compost looks, we can just load it into a manure spreader, is what we use. If you've ever go look up a manure spreader, you can load that with the tractor, and we can spread it out all over a field in minutes. And we don't spend a whole heck of a lot of time sifting these. So these ones are more for the individual customers. These aren't for the farm customers. The farm customers get the compost. Individual customers will get this stuff that we sift out by hand. They love crawling all over the sides. So that is how we do it. So we do it with the modified worm sifter and those trays, because they're easier. It doesn't get too heavy for the kids. You know, they can load them up in these trays in between batches. So we just use our cement mixing trays that we have from the breeding trays that we have. And so this has been sifted once. It needs to be sifted again. So they'll get to that after they get out of school. And then they know to pull out, you know, fruit stickers and stuff. And it's easy in these trays to see what you're looking at. So you can pull it out easily enough. But that's all you have to do. And then you have beautiful finished castings to spread in your garden or your potted plants. wherever else you want to get rid of fertilizer and use something good for the environment. So it started out looking like this in the worm bin, and you're like, that doesn't look done at all. And then you get in here and you get some amazing castings. Sometimes what I'll do if I sift them out that fine is I'll put them in a separate bin, a smaller clear bin, and I'll bait out any babies that might be in there, because this size the cocoons can still fall through, and so there might be cocoons in there. There probably are if I spread them out. Let's see if I can do this. And then you can pull the cocoons out so you're not losing the next generation of worms. That is literally what we'll do. So there you go, sifting in a nutshell. Using light, doing it by hand, using some tools, using the worm sifter. There's other people who use the big cylinder ones. I don't like those because I feel like it shakes the worms too much. I don't know. I'm sure the worm sifter shifts and shakes the worms just as much as the next thing. But you can find like grain cleaners is what they're, or grain dryers. You can use something like that to sift out your castings. They work perfectly well. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. So good luck. Let me know how your sifting goes, what level you sift your worm castings down to. I'm kind of curious what everybody else does. I only do it to the second level, which I think is 1/4 inch. We don't go down to 1/8, right? Yeah, 1/4 inch. Because that's all you need. You don't need to do anything crazy. So we'll see you next time. Take care. This has been the year of the bee sting. I got stung twice last week. Steph got stung 2 weeks ago, and we could not for the life of us figure out where. It wasn't our bees, it was hornets. And we looked. Here's my truck. You look up in the tree, there's a big hornet nest. So this entire time we've been hanging out underneath them. So I'm gonna have to take care of that this weekend.